Our next presentation will be on cybersecurity considerations for local governments, presented by Bob Hoster. Bob is SEK's internal control specialist. He joined SEK in 2013. He has over 40 years of experience, graduated from Penn State with a bachelor's in information systems. He specializes in providing internal audit, trust audit, information technology audit, loan review, and SOC services. He relocated full-time to Florida in 2024. Before that, he was in our Hanover office. He enjoys biking and other outdoor activities, especially during the winter months. Bob, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Christina. To start off the cybersecurity presentation, I wanted to highlight some recent cybersecurity breaches that occurred over the past 2 years, which I think is important to sort of set the context for what I'm going to be covering here in this part of the presentation. This first event occurred in the city of York in July 8th, 2025, where they experienced a ransomware incident where they had to pay out $500,000. And now I'm going to just read here what's in the news that was reported as to what the city explained in their news release regarding this breach. The city of York experienced a debilitating ransomware attack on July 8, 2025. Foreign hackers seized control of the city's IT infrastructure, crippling municipal email and the city's parking garage system. The attack was not publicly disclosed while it was unfolding, and the administration subsequently retained consulting firms to investigate the exposure. The ransomware attack on the city of York resulted in a negotiated ransom payout of $500,000, which was covered by the city's insurance carrier. A second incident occurred on August 9, 2025 at the Pennsylvania Office of the Attorney General, which was a data incident. And the details of that cyber breach: the Pennsylvania Office of the Attorney General suffered a major data breach following a ransomware attack detected on August 9, 2025. The threat actor, which had the title, it was entitled Inc. Ransom, claimed responsibility in September 2025, alleging that they stole 5.7 terabytes of data, including names, social security numbers, and medical records. This breach knocked the OAG's website, emails, and phone systems offline for weeks, forcing them to operate manually. These hackers gained entry by exploiting vulnerabilities in an unpatched Citrix network appliance. After discovering the breach, the OAG refused to pay the ransom and began notifying affected individuals, including offering them identity protection services. The next case I wanted to highlight occurred in Washington County, Pennsylvania, which was also a ransomware attack, and which occurred on January 19, 2024. Now, this resulted in ransomware being paid of $400,000. Details of that incident: Washington County experienced a serious cyber incident that quickly escalated into a ransomware attack. What began as suspicious activity on January 19, 2024 was confirmed a few days later as malware designed to lock systems and demand payment. County IT teams immediately partnered with federal authorities and external cybersecurity specialists to contain the malware and stop it from spreading to other networks. Their priority was to protect critical services while investigating how the attackers gained access. To restore operations and reduce further risks, officials approved a ransom payment of up to $400,000, which was processed through a cryptocurrency service. And the last incident I wanted to just bring up was one that occurred in Union County, Pennsylvania, which is a local government. This occurred on March 13, 2025. Again, this was a ransomware attack which was discovered on March 13th of that year. Cyber criminals accessed county systems and stole sensitive personal data, including social security numbers, driver's license details, financial account information, and files related to children and youth services, court matters, and law enforcement. The county has since concluded its investigation, updated its cybersecurity incident response policies, and mailed written notices to impacted individuals with offers for complimentary credit monitoring. Now, what they don't disclose, and this is a question that I think a lot of consideration needs to be thought about, is what was the cost to fix these cybersecurity breaches besides paying out the ransomware or anything other type of ransom that might have been demanded? Usually when you have breaches, you have a couple additional costs. You have forensic investigation costs to determine the problem. You then hire consultants to come in and fix the problem. And then that also results in increased cyber insurance premiums for the government agency. So this is sort of sets the table for what I'm about to talk about why we need to be really making this as a top consideration for everyone. Okay, the next slide, I'm going to just very well talk about why do these cybersecurity breaches happen in local governments? Well, there's a couple factors. First is limited IT budgets and staffs. Many municipalities operate with tight budgets and small IT teams. This means fewer resources to invest in modern cybersecurity tools or dedicated security personnel. Attackers exploit these gaps, knowing some towns can't afford enterprise-grade defenses. A second cause is outdated systems and legacy technology. Local agencies often rely on legacy software and infrastructure that hasn't been properly updated or patched, leaving security holes open. Aging systems can be easier for hackers to breach due to known vulnerabilities. Another reason that local governments are targeted, they have sensitive citizen data. This includes tax records to health and public safety data. Local governments store information that hackers find very valuable. Access to citizen data is a big motivator for attacks that criminals can sell personal data or hold it hostage for ransom. Another factor, lack of training and policies. It's common for small governments to have limited cybersecurity awareness. Busy staff may not be trained to spot phishing emails or follow strict password policies. A lack of documented security processes means human errors, such as clicking on a malicious link in an email, which can more easily lead to a breach. And then finally, one of the other factors that is not talked about too much is compliance pressures. Governments must also comply with various regulations. An example would be state privacy laws for data. Navigating these requirements with limited resources is tough, and non-compliance can result in increased risk of fines or incidents. Okay, in the next slide, I'm going to talk about, obviously, the one that's gotten the most attention over the last several years is artificial intelligence. Now, I'm just going to keep this from a risk standpoint of what is out there and what hackers are trying to attack in your systems. And the most common one that they're trying to do right now is AI phishing. Now, AI phishing uses generative language, voice, and video models to create highly personalized, grammatically correct, and hyper-realistic scams. Attackers use AI to analyze public data and social media to craft targeted messages that mimic trusted executives, family members, or friends. Now, there's 4 types of AI phishing, which you need to be kind of aware of. The first is what they call spear phishing. AI large language models can rapidly scan LinkedIn and corporate websites to build an accurate vulnerability profile. In this case, they compose messages which are referencing real projects, internal company language, or recent client meetings to fool a user that local government or agency to believe that it is a real attempt to obtain this information. Another type of AI phishing is voice cloning and vishing, as they call it. Attackers use AI voice generation tools to create near-perfect replicas of voices. This is often used in urgent phone calls, such as impersonating a CEO or a loved one, to manipulate victims into immediate fund transfers from their bank accounts. And you've probably heard about a lot of those on the news. Another attempt is what they call a deep fake video. Scammers deploy real-time deepfakes on platforms like Zoom to visually impersonate senior colleagues, making fraudulent transactions look completely genuine. And the last type of AI phishing is what they call phantom squatting and polymorphic content. In this case, generative AI can continuously alter the grammar, structure, and text of phishing emails to bypass traditional signature-based spam filters, which are in place at your government agency. It can also hallucinate and register domain names that never existed before, creating new phishing vulnerabilities for your organization. Okay, on the next slide, I'm going to be talking about some other types of cybersecurity threats. There's a polling question up now if you'd like to respond to that. The first one I talked about originally in those 4 other cases was ransomware. Ransomware is a type of malicious software, also known as malware, that hijacks your data or devices, encrypts files, and demands a payment, which is called a ransom, to restore access. Ransomware attacks have surged in recent years, which pose a severe threat to local governments. These attacks can cripple essential services, including emergency response systems and public utilities. The financial impact of ransomware can be devastating, with costs associated not only with the ransom itself, but also with recovery efforts and lost productivity. Another type of cybersecurity exposure is what they call phishing and social engineering attacks. Social engineering is a broad tactic where attackers use psychological manipulation to trick individuals into breaking security protocols, revealing sensitive information, or performing unsafe actions. Phishing is the most common form of social engineering, which use deceptive digital messages like emails, texts, or calls to steal credentials, financial data, or install malware. Phishing is a primary entry port for many breaches. Attackers often send fraudulent emails that appear legitimate to trick employees into clicking on malicious links or giving up credentials. And all it takes is one unsuspecting staffer to click on an email attachment for hackers to infiltrate a city's network or a government's network. Given the lack of cybersecurity awareness training in many local governments, phishing remains dangerously effective. Therefore, ongoing staff education is critical to counter this threat. Another risk that we have is third-party vendor vulnerabilities. And usually in a lot of government agencies, some services are outsourced to a third-party vendor. While there's some risks that go in part with that, third-party vendor vulnerabilities are security weaknesses in external suppliers, service providers, or software dependencies that can be exploited to breach a connected organization's network because they sit outside the direct control of the government entity themselves. Such flaws, such as unpatched software, weak access controls, and stolen credentials, expand an attack surface for a hacker and can leave your systems exposed to breach. Another big factor is just the human factor itself. And this is one of the most significant challenges for local governments in the cybersecurity space. Despite advancements in technology to prevent breaches, human error remains a primary vulnerability. Phishing attacks where employees are tricked into revealing sensitive information continues to be a major issue. Even with regular training and awareness programs, many employees fall victims to these schemes. Another last issue for other threat would be remote working. The shift towards remote work has increased new cybersecurity challenges. Government employees are now working from various locations, which increases the risk of security breaches. To ensure secure access to government systems and data from remote locations, it requires robust VPNs, encryptions, and continuous monitoring of your organization's network. Local governments must also address the issue of endpoint security, such as mobile phones. Devices used by remote workers can become entry points for cyber attacks. Therefore, it's important to implement strict security protocols and regular updates for all devices to maintain a secure remote work environment. Okay, the last part of this presentation, I'm just going to talk about some best practices to address some of these cyber security risks that I just talked about. First, obviously, and Laura talked about this in her presentation, is to implement an AI policy and limit employee use of AI tools. The policy but generally should address best practices for government employees, and it should prioritize security, monitoring, and training. And one of the biggest issues that we find out there in the marketplace that causes these breaches when people use AI tools, people enter sometimes personally identifiable information, such as PII as it's known, or classified information into these public AI platforms. The best practice is that employees should only use approved AI tools which are approved by your organization and have been vetted by your IT department to make sure that you're only using AI applications that are approved by your department, IT department. Another consideration is to move government systems to cloud security. And the reason that's a good best practice is a lot of times outdated on-premise servers in your local agency or government are often a weak link. Moving to cloud-based solutions can significantly improve security and reliability. Cloud providers offer automatic software updates to ensure you're always patched against the latest threats and offer built-in advanced security features that most small IT departments can't match. By migrating systems to a secure cloud platform, local governments can also gain improved data backup and disaster recovery, meaning even if an attack occurs, your data can be restored quickly. Embracing the cloud is a key cybersecurity strategy in the public sector today, as it offloads much of the security heavy lifting to expert providers. This one's probably been implemented in a lot of organizations, but I wanted to just reiterate, to enable strong authentication, you want to put in multi-factor authentication. Weak or stolen passwords remain a common cause of breaches. Implementing multi-factor authentication across all your government systems is a must. MFA requires users to provide a second form of verification, like a text code or app prompt, in addition to a password. This simple step means that even if an employee's password is phished, attackers still can't easily access the account. Many state governments have already rolled out mandatory MFA, and local governments should follow suit for everything from email to financial systems. The next best practice is to perform regular software updates and patching to systems and applications. Many attacks, from ransomware to data breaches, succeed by exploiting known vulnerabilities in software that hasn't been updated. Local IT teams should establish a strict schedule for applying security patches and updates to all systems and devices. Downtime for updates can be inconvenient, but the cost of not patching can be far worse. Another best practice, employee training and phishing awareness. Technology alone can't stop every attack, since people are the first line of defense. Investing in regular cybersecurity training for government employees is one of the most impactful steps leaders can take. This includes teaching staff how to spot phishing emails, using strong passwords, and follow data handling best practices. One thing to do is consider running a simulated phishing exercise, which is also known as social engineering, to keep everyone aware of phishing scams and to make sure that everyone might be aware of how to spot a phishing email attempt. Data backups and incident response planning are a key cybersecurity best practice. It is often said that if it's not when, a cybersecurity incident will occur in your organization. Local governments need to be prepared. This means maintaining secure offline backups of critical data and having a clear incident response and disaster recovery plan. In practice, this could involve daily backups of databases to a cloud storage bucket, regular testing of restoring from backups, and a documented plan assigning roles and steps if a breach or ransomware event happens. With solid backups, agencies can recover data without paid ransoms, and a rehearsed response plan will minimize downtime when an attack occurs. Next best practice would be network segmentation and access control. A smart technical measure to limit damage is network segmentation. Essentially keeps the most sensitive systems and data on separate secure networks, not accessible from the general network. As an example, computers controlling a water treatment facility or police evidence database should be isolated from the public internet or even the main office network. And strict access control should be enforced, which only allow employees access to the data or systems that they truly need for their job, which can help ensure that one compromised account doesn't open the floodgates to all information in an organization's network. You will also want to maybe consider appointing a security leader team. In this case, you want to designate a cybersecurity officer or a small team to oversee security for the municipality. These persons can coordinate training, monitor threats, keep systems updated, and ensure policies are enforced. Many local governments share an IT director across departments, which extends that role to explicitly include cybersecurity oversight. You'll want to then also collaborate and share information with other local government agencies. Cyber threats don't normally stop at cyber limits. Local government IT services should collaborate with neighboring cities, state agencies, and cybersecurity organizations to share threat information and best practices. And you could do this by joining information sharing groups, which give government agencies access to early warnings about active threat and advice on how to respond to these threats. Next, and this is a common thing that I see out in the marketplace that not just government agencies, but other clients, they perform periodic penetration tests and vulnerability assessments. And when you do perform regular and frequent penetration tests and vulnerability scanning, it helps you identify priority risk areas in your system and gaps in your network system so you can proactively identify these gaps and address them before a breach occurs in your network infrastructure. I generally recommend that at least you do these penetration tests and vulnerability assessments through scans or some other type of tool at least quarterly, because your infrastructure is constantly changing and threats are always changing, every day. Another tool that you can implement is what they call geo-blocking. Again, I talked about the remote working threat. One process is to limit user access to a government agency's network is based on a user's physical location. And geo-blocking is an access tool technology that restricts online content, websites, or services based on your physical location. This is done by identifying your device's IP address or via GPS on your mobile phone, which platforms verify where you are and block access if your location falls outside their approved territory. As an example, let's say that you're accessing your government's website remotely, or working remotely that day, and your normal residence is, say, in the county of York. You access your government system through that remote login, but just say at some point, if there's geo-blocking in place, if some unauthorized hacker gets your user's credentials and tries to log in, say, from the state of New York, geo-blocking will block that user from even accessing the system because they're logging in from a territory or location that's outside your normal log-on area. So this is where geo-blocking is a key tool that you might want to consider implementing for remote work. And finally, another consideration is to implement a security information and event management SEM tool. This should be considered for enhancing detective control, since a SEM tool will provide threat detection, event analysis, and incident investigation in a government agency's network. SEM tools, which stand for Security Information and Event Management, are software solutions that collect, centralize, and analyze security data from across an organization's digital network. They combine log management and real-time event monitoring to help security teams spot, investigate, and stop cyber attacks. So by implementing these solutions and upgrading your technology, strengthening your internal processes, and educating people that work within your local governments, it can dramatically improve your cybersecurity posture for responding to cybersecurity incidents. Thank you.